Oh, we're live now. I see myself. I see me. Hey guys, what's going on? It is Tech Tuesday, and do we have a pretty sweet thing to show you guys. I know we've talked about it. We're going to be releasing it here pretty soon, but we're going to show you how it works and kind of how to adjust it. But in order to do that, we got to go over to Justin Smith.
Well, hi, Steve. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Hello, everybody. It's Tech Tuesday. Thanks for visiting us. And we're going to talk technical aspects of BSD kits. Now, we've talked about how to get rid of bump steer in the past, so we're not going to go into a lot of that detail, but we're going to talk about how this kit works, how easy it is to change, and how easy it is to fix the bump steer problems in all of your UTVs, whether it's a Can-Am or not, because we've had these kits out for some time when it comes to Can-Ams, but now this new product is for all other UTVs that use a ball joint. Steve, I know you were talking about ball joints earlier.
I do.
How are yours,
My ball joints are doing great. Nothing wrong with them. They are tuned in tip-top shape. But I do want to point something out. Can I borrow this just real quick, Jakey Poo? It is Jakey Poo's birthday, the cameraman himself.
Birthday, yes.
We just want to say happy birthday. And then also Justin Smith just celebrated his birthday.
Yes, thank you very much.
So we just want to say happy birthday to you too, and we love you. Now take the camera and get back to work.
Behind the scenes, not only do we have Steve, who you guys know is here right now, but we also have Mitch.
Mitcholi.
So direct your questions to Steve and Mitch. We have Josh, too, taking pictures of awkward moments. He's very good at that. Thank you, Josh. But you guys, we don't really have a new name for this thing, but it's basically a pin or it's a ball joint eliminator when it comes to tie rods. So normally, you've got a ball joint on the end of a tie rod that's a tapered system. You tighten it up into the spindle, and that taper tightens in and keeps it from moving. Well, two things that are kind of bad about that. One, it's single shear, which means it doesn't have a bracket on top of it keeping the thing from bending, and ball joints tend to break when you have big wheels and tires, or drive it hard, or race it, or just try and keep up with your buddies and drop it into a hole. So we're not really big fans of ball joints, and this eliminates that. And number two, ball joints have a problem inherently with the taper design. That means that as the taper tightens up into the spindle position or the hole that it's going to go into, the height of that ball joint can vary as you tighten it up. So you tighten it up a lot, it might shrink that ball joint out, make it shorter. You don't tighten it up very much, it might be a little taller. Also, differences in the machining process of the spindle with that taper in the spindle could be a little deeper, a little wider, which changes the height of the tie rod. Well, as we've discussed with you guys in the past, height of the tie rod related to the spindle and upper and lower ball joint locations affects bump steer. What is bump steer? That is the change in toe throughout the cycle of the suspension. So to have a car with zero bump steer, next to impossible, but that means that the tires are towed straight and forward without any toe change throughout cycle completely. That is the best thing you could possibly have. Has zero feedback in the wheel. When you go through the bumps, it doesn't try and pull it left or right when you have zero bump steer. When you have a vehicle that has toe change at the top and it cycles down and it toes out, or the opposite way, maybe it toes in, drooped, comes up, it aligns when at ride height, but it toes out when it's fully compressed. That change in bump steer is usually measured in inches, at least for the simple standpoint for us with tape measures, measure it in inches. And if you can get anywhere in a UTV under a ½ inch of bump steer, Mitch, you've been testing all of these and you can attest to this. I mean, really anything under ½ to 3/4 of an inch is pretty good. A lot of them though are way over 2 inches. Maybe you can tell everybody some of the ones you've just checked and the differences in them, or how much they had factory.
Yeah, a lot of pros that we've been playing with, just kind of trying to dial it in. I've seen anywhere from 2½ to 3 3/4 of an inch of bump steer.
You had a Commander in or a Defender in the other day, right?
Defender, yeah, that still had about 2 1/4 inches of bump steer in that one too. They kind of stay in that 2 to 3 inch range, and we're
Turbo S. You saw one that was pretty good one day, and then you had another one that was 3 or 4 inches.
Yeah, they're all over the place, honestly. But we're getting them down to like 1/4 to, like Justin said, about 3/4 of an inch with this kit, which is pretty rad. So
yeah, to go from 2 inches down to ½ an inch would be in what you're going to feel. It's going to be this as you're driving to driving like this through the same rough stuff. That's the difference. It's night and day. Also, on how the UTV wants to track down a trail, if you start going through bumps and you find all of a sudden it wants to go this way and then you bring it back, and all of a sudden it wants to go this way and you bring it back, that can be bump steer issue too, and that goes away to where it's 2 fingers on the wheel through the rough stuff. And that's ultimately what we're trying to make, is so it's easier for you to drive it, easier for you to go through the rough stuff without having your arms fall asleep, or death grip on the wheel, or wearing out parts in the front end. Since we build racks, we're very sensitive to having rack and pinion wear, which is also due to bump steer and wheel offset and wheel spacers and things like that. You were able to get most of the vehicles you were just talking about down to the under 3/4 of an inch for sure.
Yeah.
But sometimes 1/4 to half.
Yeah, and it depends too on how low it needs to go. I mean, you're fighting the cycle of the suspension too, and how much the rod end, I guess, if you will, can actually cycle sideways before you start to hit the spindle too. If you can play with that and get that lower, you can take almost all of it out of it, but you're kind of limited in some sense as well. So, but yeah, I mean, there's been maybe 1 or 2 that were like 1 inch to 1 1/4 inch, but most of them are 1/4 inch to 3/4 of an inch.
So here's what we kind of want you guys to do for a homework assignment, since you guys are on our feeds and you get it, right? So go back to your UTV, measure the toe setting at ride height. And usually most UTVs are going to be 1/4 to half an inch towed in. Or maybe it's 0, whatever yours might be, who knows. But let's just measure the toe. That's the difference between the front measurement between the tires and the back between the rear of the tires. The difference between the two is your toe measurement. So the front might be 1/4 of an inch narrower than the back. That's 1/4 inch towed in. Measure your ride height. Then jack the car up, jack UTV up, all the way to tires off the ground, and measure it again. Now, arms are going to cycle and get narrower as they droop. So the fact that your measurement gets narrower does not matter. What matters is the difference between the front and the back measurement. So now with the tire off the ground, jacked up, measure the front width compared to the rear width and see what it is. If you started at ride height at 1/4 inch towed in, and you go at droop and you measure it again and it's 1/4 of an inch towed in, you have 0 bump steer. It's cycled perfect throughout the whole process. Now, I guarantee you none of these are going to be like that. You're going to probably end up with 1 inch or 2 towed in, more than it was at ride height. Or you could have 2 inches towed out, or 3/4 of an inch towed in instead of 1/4 inch, which would be half an inch of bump steer. So you guys go home, check yours and see what it is. Maybe check back with us, let us know what it is. I think the numbers are going to be staggeringly high, higher than most people think, especially on some of the ball jointed UTVs like Polaris's and other manufacturers too, and it doesn't matter what model. Could be Turbo S, could be Pro, could be General, could be Commander, Defender, could be on Yamaha YXZs. You guys with the Yamahas that we don't normally give love to, go back and check it and see what it is. Let us know what that is. Now, here's how this kit fixes that. If you're looking right here, you're looking at one complete BSD kit for any of the new models, which is basically a ball joint eliminator system. So to get rid of the ball joints, this is going to replace that. How does that happen? Well, drill bit supplied in the kit, so you can drill the tapered hole out in the spindle and replace it with a stainless steel liner. That liner is going to go through the spindle mount, and then you'll end up with a rod end from the tie rod put on there. You'll have another high miss spacer and a bolt through the system holding that rod end in place, or a tie rod. This whole system here can be adjusted height-wise up and down on the spindle. That is because of all of these spacers that you're looking at. We supply you with different thicknesses of spacers. All of these spacers are used at all times. So in this kit, I'll just take the nut off real quick. If you wanted to mount the tie rod as close to the spindle as possible, then you would run this system into the spindle mount, and you would run all these spacers underneath the spindle and tighten it up. And now you've got the outer rod end and outer tie rod as low as possible on the spindle. Well, what if you cycle the system and find out that you have 1 inch of bump steer? Well, one way to fix it, and we will have in these kits which direction you're going to go, whether you're going to raise the ball joint or lower the ball joint to fix all that. You can take, say, this thicker spacer and then run that on top of the spindle and run all the rest on the bottom. Sorry, too many of them for me to grab right in front of you guys. Apologize. I had very little preparation into this. That now raises the tie rod above the spindle. In this case, this is 300,000 or a quarter inch, right, Mitch? Raises the system a quarter of an inch. You still have all of the other shims in place and you can still tighten it. You can adjust it by any of these thicknesses. So you can tune the bump steer out of the system. Now I know it's hard to see when I'm doing that right in front of you in my hands. So we've got a RS1 in front of you that we've got our kit installed on. So maybe Jake, if you can go to the back and take a look at that. Mitch, you can point to. But up close and tight so people can see how this whole pin system is bolted to that spindle. I'll grab one in my hand, but Mitch, you can show people how that is actually installed. So this pin is inside the spindle and we're able to adjust the height by relocating the shims underneath or on top of the spindle. So let's just say that we've already cycled this car and we know that this tie rod assembly has to go up and we're trying to eliminate about 3/8 of an inch. We have figured out that a 60,000 spacer, which Mitch will show you, it's one of the thin spacers it's in the kit, about 60 thousandths of shim will remove about 3/8 of bump steer. So he's pulling that 60, show everybody that one. There's a 60 and a 250 thousandth spacer, or 60 thousandths is about 1/8 of an inch, or 1/16 of an inch, and 250 is a quarter of an inch. For every small spacer, or 60 thou, it's gonna remove about 3/8 of an inch of bump. So let's just say we cycled this and we got 1/2 inch of bump steer, we're gonna remove that 60 from the top of the spindle. We're gonna put the 250 back on it without that 60. Install it, which drops the tie rod lower, and install all of the spacers that are supplied in the system on the bottom of the pin.
Something that I like to do too is take all the smaller spacers and put them against the spindle so you have the thicker one on the bottom. That way when you
More
go to
support for the nut
you
and
get more
washer.
support on the washer for that side of it.
Bolt and upper high miss spacer. All of our shims supplied in the kit. And with a quick impact, the system's back tightened up. And now you've got the ability to remove 3/8 of an inch just by a bump steer, just by swapping out that 60 thousandth shim. So if this was in the shop, we would go ahead and we would verify that change by cycling the suspension up and down and make sure that that bump steer has been removed and removed in the right direction. We took the shim out, which lowered the tie rod. Maybe we should have added a shim and raised the tie rod. The instructions with all of these kits are going to come with some basic notes of what we feel is a starting point for each model. So with an RS1, we're going to have Mitch's notes in there from cycling the system, a couple of RS1s. Hey, start with this shim package on the top. So you have a good 0 point, but it'll also have a listing of, hey, you've measured the front end, it was 0 at ride height and it's towed in this much at droop. Well, if that's the case, we can go to a graph that we'll supply and it'll show, hey, try this shim stack on that BSD kit to try and get you as close as possible. Now, we also know that a lot of people aren't going to take the time to pull shocks completely off the vehicle and cycle all the way to bump and all the way to droop. So we'll have some shortcut measurements in there for you as well, which basically is measuring ride height and jacking it up and measuring droop. And according to that bump steer change the shim pack in this kit accordingly to try and remove that and call it done. That way you guys can do it quickly in the driveway. You don't have to pull the shocks and have all the alignment plates and things that we use here to nail it. But you guys have any questions on any of that stuff? I know this is a lot of detail and you probably don't have much, but go for it if you do.
This one, I can't pronounce his name, but he said this is just for Polaris, right? Actually, no. This is for Polaris. This is going to be for the KRX. We're going to have one for Honda here real soon. We're still working on some fitment for that. But as of it being released today, Yamaha, Kawasaki, Polaris,
You know what, Mitch? It's every model that has a ball joint style tie rod.
Yep.
So it's not just Polaris, but everything with a ball joint. That means that a Wildcat doesn't have a ball joint. It's got a joint, a normal unit in it. I'm sorry, a normal uniball style joint, and double sheared. And also the X3s, which we already have a kit for, it doesn't apply to those, but every other model it applies to. Which ones do we have on the website today?
All of the Polarises from 2014 to present. Could be your XP1000, your XPTs, even the Fox edition. We have the General XP Walker, the long travel General. We have KRX, we'll have RS1 obviously, and then we have Pro, the Pro R, or not the Pro R, just the normal Pro, and then Turbo S, Dynamics and Walker editions, both on those. And then there might be one more that I'm missing, but they are on the website. You can scroll through them. It should be there for your guys' model, and you can pick it up there.
Cool. Steve, what other questions have you got?
So we do have a couple questions, but I also want to say we have a hello from Michigan and then a good morning from Australia.
Oh, excellent, excellent.
And
Hello,
then-
Australia.
G'day.
And Michigan.
G'day. And then somebody did give you a brand new nickname, Justin Smith, the Sultan of Springs.
Sultan of Springs.
Never heard that one before.
No, you can run with that on the introduction at least a couple times. I don't mind that.
Maybe. And then, Justin, we do have a question from Robert Campbell.
Yeah.
He said, can we please talk about the news of Fox buying shock therapy?
Absolutely, Robert. I can cover any of that. So, yes, there's been a few rumors floating around there. Well, the rumors are partially true and partially not. Fox and shock therapy have reached an agreement where we have a strategic partnership moving forward, well, that allows us to combine multiple patents. Patents that we have, patents that Fox has, patents that other companies have as well. And the goal is, moving forward, that we are involved in all of the new product testing, all of the power behind the Fox name and engineering to complete new products that we had in development, that Fox also had in development, and bring new things to the market for UTVs immediately. So this strategic partnership will basically further the UTV industry faster and through new technology and new products. So what you're going to see out of this is zero change from the shock therapy side. All of us are still here, all of us still doing what we do, running it the way we've always done, and no change on that standpoint. But you're going to see some new products come out very fast that we've been holding out and holding back on for many years, such as some of our sway bar link technology and other things that we've talked to you about in the past, electronic, computer systems, tuning, and shock development. You're going to see some really trick stuff coming out real soon. So in short, no change whatsoever as far as what we do and how we do it. But what you're going to see is a lot of new cool products very, very fast. So we're really excited. Hopefully you guys are too.
Got a lot of excitement in the stuff, Justin. Congratulations and everything.
I got a whoop.
Thank you guys. Thank you guys. All of us here. Ask Steve and Mitch. I mean, right? I mean, you guys are. This is incredible. What's coming?
It's gonna be awesome.
Excuse my French, but there's some cool shit coming for sure.
Yeah, cool shit we can't talk about. Yeah, I'm not even gonna. I'm just gonna say. I'm gonna say things I can't. I'm not supposed to say if I don't shut up. Steve,
there is a question about this kit, Mitchie. If you have limit straps, do you want the limit straps removed, or do you measure it to where it droops out with the limit strap?
For
when you go to full droop, do you want it to be fully drooped out without the limit strap, or do you want it to be
without
with
the limit strap? Because if you're reducing that or extending that, your toe change can change drastically. So you want the length of the shock to be exactly where it needs to be. If you have a limit strap on it, it's actually going to choke it up, and you might not get the most accurate measurement by doing it.
So remove the strap whenever you're checking all of these bump steer measurements that we're doing. Also, you're going to find that the worst bump steer typically is at the very last inch of suspension travel on these things. And so when you're tuning the bump steer out of it, if you can get most of it out of it at full shock lengths, that's what we would prefer. But if you choke it up an inch and all of a sudden your numbers are pretty much perfect, then understand when you throw the strap on it, it just gets better. So we'd prefer that you do all of this with a strap off of it, right?
Yep.
No strap on.
No strap on.
No strap on.
Justin, Michael Schertzer said his boss told him he had to wait until 4:30 to check his bump steer, so he's kind of bummed.
What? What kind of a boss have you got? You need a new boss, man.
Pretty good question. Does the
Yeah.
race rack remove bump steer, or is it better to have both?
Good question. So all of our race racks are designed around the factory pivot point. So in theory, when you install our race rack, it's not going to improve or diminish what you have for bump steer to start with. It should be the factory number, whatever your factory number is. But when you're talking about an X3 rack, our X3 racks have center link adjustment in height. So you can do bump steer changes at the outer tie rod on that, and you can also do bump steer changes at the center link position on an X3. So to answer your question, our racks don't change it, but an X3 rack will allow you to adjust all of it out instead of just some of it. So it's better all the way around.
Another good question. How does the new pin kit handle as far as wear?
Well, we've got these pin kits out for some time now with thousands and thousands of miles on them. Just like all of our other products we test them extensively. We've seen zero issue whatsoever when it comes to wear. So you're not going to be breaking off or shearing pins off tie rods anymore. This is a stronger system than that. Also consider that with this system here, even though you don't have a tab above it to put it in double shear, this is the same geometry and engineering behind our TLS kit, or toe link support for the back of a Can-Am hub, which takes all of the load off the bolt and places all of the load on the stainless steel spacer. So the bolt, in essence, could just about loosen up and you still won't shear it off. So this is a much stronger system at that outer tie rod joint than the factory is, and than any straight through bolt and just spacer system would normally be. So it's a lot stronger, and we haven't seen anywhere on our side. Another thing that we haven't talked about yet, Mitch, is that this kit is an upgradable system for any tie rod kit.
5/8.
With a 5/8 rod end.
With a 5/8 rod end, there it is. Your asterisk, small print. The good thing though is that 99% of the tie rod kits that are out there for any of the bigger UTVs, when I say bigger, I mean bigger than like 800s and 900s, is going to use a 5/8 rod end, no matter what. And they might use something close. They might use a ball joint on some of like maybe the Super ATV kits might have a replacement ball joint, but really any tie rod kit that has a rod end on it or any kind of adjustable rod end, it's going to be 5/8. This fits 5/8. So another thing on top of that is usually aftermarket tie rod kits, when you bolt them on and they've got clevises to replace the inner joint, it changes the geometry for the worse. You're pushing that pivot point off the rack from where it is out wider when you do a clevis. That adds bump steer. So that's kind of why we wanted to give you the homework to go home and measure your car, especially if it's got aftermarket tie rods on it. You might find it has a way more bump steer than anybody ever thought, or maybe that it ever had factory. And this may not remove all of it. It's not designed to remove all of it, but it's designed to remove most of it. And you'll get it down to a pretty low number if you take the time to adjust it, right, Mitch?
Yeah, enough to make a big noticeable difference even just driving the car. Like you'll take it with 2 fingers and be able to drive the thing as straight as possible with no forearm wear or feeling in the arms or anything like that.
It can go from work to enjoyment.
Yep.
Right? Yep. Just by getting it right. So we highly recommend that you take a look at this kit, especially if you have aftermarket tie rod kits, even more so. And we've seen big changes. If you do aftermarket control arms, then this kit's going to be a must. Why? Because aftermarket control arms relocate either the spindle forward for more tire, like for mud stuff, or wider for longer travel. If you just change any of those ball joint positions, geometry-wise, in any way, a little bit or a lot, it's going to add bump steer to the car, and you can get rid of it with this. Yep. You had a question, Mitch?
A couple of them, actually, about the same thing, but what's the roundabout cost per set?
Good. You know what? You know the retail on this, right?
Yes.
$119?
They're $119.95 for 2 pins and the drill bit to complete the entire installation.
$119. You guys, we tried to keep this under $100. It's impossible. We actually really chopped down any of the margin in this kit to get it to the $120. range, but at 120 bucks, that's pretty easy for anybody to buy and cure a ton of issues in your daily driven or weekend driven UTV. It's worth it times 10 for sure. Steve, what you got?
I did have a question. It said, it's off topic, but what particle separator do you use and do you recommend them?
So the S&B particle separator is a badass unit. I would recommend it for play cars. They work great. We don't use any particle separators. The reason is that in racing, and a lot of times when you put a ton of accessories on a UTV, they don't have enough electrical power to run stereo, the lights, the radio, and all heat seaters and run a particle separator. In racing, that's certainly the case. So to not have the draw on the system, we don't run one in the race car. What we do is we change the inlet to the air cleaner from the rear fender area, which is typically very dirty, and we run it through the firewall, which is typically very clean in the cab. So we run full races without any clogging issues in the race car without a separator. That's the only reason why we don't run one. But we do recommend them. They work great. More stuff.
I'll have another off-topic one. Turbo wants to know, comms question, PCI or rugged, and why?
So nothing against rugged because we like the guys over there, but we've been PCI loyal since 1997. PCI also goes to every single off-road race, supports all of their racers, and you can get anything tuned and perfected with those guys at the race. That's another reason why we've always been with PCI. So for loyalty reasons, we suggest and recommend PCI, but nothing wrong with rugged.
Somebody wants to know, I just lost it. Oh, they said, just installed the TLS kit. Awesome quality and design, Justin.
Awesome. So that design in strength applies to this too, with support on the stainless steel shaft, Stephen.
Yes, ma'am.
And not.
Yes, sir. Jesus
not,
Christ.
I'm sorry. I was just talking about that. And not on the bolt. And so you end up with a much stronger system by doing that.
A little hot and bothered.
Yeah, I got you going. But the system is, believe it or not, super easy to install. It's a drill bit and a bolt away from putting on, and we make it easy in the instructions for you to understand where to put that shim kit to try and account for the measurements you see from ride height to droop. Mitch.
Ryan Bartlett says, so I have a Viking with tons of lift. I had to add 2-inch spacer to raise the tie rod high enough to not bind up. Think I got a lot of bump steer now? It don't flex much, but it might not have much bump, question mark.
If you put 2-inch spacers on the tie rod, I guarantee you that thing's probably got 6 to 8 inches of bump steer. Do the math. A 60 thousandths change, which is this difference, you can't even see it, adds 3/8 of an inch. So you put, I mean, how many 60 thousandths? There's 16 of them in an inch.
A lot.
Right? So 16 times 3/8 times 2 inches is, I mean, you might have 10 or 12 inches of bump steer in that thing. So yeah, it's a problem. I would lower it back down and and maybe limit the suspension travel just a little bit so it doesn't bind, personally. So if you only drive straight and never hit a bump, then it's not a problem.
Very good.
Right.
Jason Close wants to know, what measurement is acceptable and what measurement would you not be happy with and keep adjusting? So if you're saying 3/4, if it was 7/8, would you try and adjust to 3/4? Or would you chase that 1/8?
Yeah, I mean, I would want as little as possible, but what we're kind of going with is if you can get the vehicle to 1/2 inch of bump, 3/4 of an inch max, then let it fly. A lot of times you can't get better than that. It takes a lot of effort and a lot more detail in these adjustments, or detail in the rack design to fix it past that. There are many vehicles you can get down to 1/4 of an inch, under 1/2 inch, and we'd like to see that. But if you can get 3/4 of an inch, we're calling that good. Less is better though.
Yeah, because you probably still had like 2.5 inches in it.
Yeah,
to
I mean,
start,
remember if you had 2 or 3 inches, then 3/4 is amazing compared to that. But in the racing, we would always want as little as possible, but I would settle at 3/4 if you had a lot. Mitchell.
Albert said he's excited to get my RC2s in Glamis on President's Day, Steve.
All set up, ready to go?
hell no. Guys, I'm so slammed over there with RC2s. Keep the orders coming. Keep them coming. But I'm knocking them out right now. So I think I did 15 last week, and yeah. Yeah.
You guys, we got a special guest just walked in behind us. Maybe you guys recognize Nacho Hubert. How you doing, man?
Tech Tuesday, I figured I'd come give some tech advice. Or collect some.
We don't have you mic'd up, man. I'm sorry. You're going to have to yell a little bit, okay?
Fine.
We don't have you mic'd up. But what brings you to town?
Passing through on my way to King of the Hammers,
Yeah, you racing this year?
if you want to call it that. If you want to call it that. I really mostly just drive around and make everybody else look good. But, you know.
Right on, man.
Should have brought the race car over.
Yeah.
Well, it's over there on the other side.
It definitely has the shocks off it at the moment, so
Of
definitely
course.
not drivable at the moment.
Gotcha. Well, thanks for stopping by, man. Appreciate it. Is there anything you want to tell everybody about?
Oh, just everybody tune in to King of the Hammers and watch the crazy carnage.
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 For sure.
Y'all are going to be there.
Yeah, so
Super pumped.
that's a good announcement. Thanks for that. We do have our display trailer, which you guys have not really seen yet. We have the semi that's in Glamis that we work out of. It's a mobile shop. You've probably seen it if you've been in Glamis. We now have a second semi, and that is actually for all of the events that we're going to be going to this year, first of which being King of the Hammers. And we dropped it off on Friday. It's going to be there for the whole King of the Hammers event. Savino, Milo, myself, a couple other guys are going to be coming in and out, and we're going to be helping everybody at the semi. We are not doing shock tuning at the semi at King of the Hammers. We are in Hammertown next to one of the stages, and you won't miss us if you go there. But we are selling product. We do have plenty of parts there, so if you need them, let us know. If you need us to bring them in advance, you better let us know quick so we can bring some extra stuff. But come out and see us. We'll be in and out the whole time. Somebody will be at the semi anyways the whole time. So,
Actually,
and there's a keg in the semi, so just saying.
We took it out.
Yeah, oh.
We needed more room for parts, Justin. We took it out.
Oh, yeah, that's a big mistake, Steve.
Yeah, no,
Big mistake.
No keg,
So I
sorry.
want to know, was a video I've seen, is that the first attempt at shock therapy butcher service?
Yeah. It didn't go very well, of course, as you saw. But I think that we were able to make hamburger without a knife or any other utensil. Is a new one for every butcher out there. Is a
Some
possibility.
tender beef, I'll tell you
Yeah,
that.
very, very
That was
tender.
impressive, but pumped that y'all are okay.
Thank you. Thank
Pumped
you.
everything, you know, went as well as it could.
Us too. Believe it or not, we'll have the chassis back from Sean Geiser's next week. Completely good to go, and then we're just gonna add some tire carriers and bumpers to it and put some aluminum on it that was bent up, and that thing's gonna be race ready. We will not have that car at Laughlin next month. It will be at the Mint in March. So pretty quick repair after something like that, that's for sure. Yes, Steve?
People want to know, because we have this awesome new semi, are we going to have any plans to go to Mid-America in Jay, Oklahoma?
We will be there, yes. We have plans on being at Mid-America. We'll be at the High Lifter events, the UTV takeover events, name a couple, and we're there. I think we have 13 on the calendar for this year already. And we're probably going to take it out to Presidents in the Dunes. When is Presidents?
February. It's
February?
in 3 weeks. 3 weeks. 2 weeks. 3 weeks.
Yeah.
3 weeks.
So we will have it out in the Dunes. It will be set up next to the working semi, so we'll have both our display semi and also the working semi, so come out and hang out. And then next year in the Dunes, we are going to have some really cool things for you guys. A little bit of a surprise maybe, but I will let a little bit out. And we will have a VIP, shock therapy VIP tent. In addition
With
to
a keg.
with a keg.
The keg
or
will be
two.
there for that.
And
Can you pre-buy armbands?
and so the only way you get an armband for Shock Therapy VIP is to be a customer of some kind. You must have purchased something. Does not have to be your car in the working area, but that would help.
That gives VIP.
That's right. Yeah, double VIP. So that'll be out there, just so you guys know. Steve.
Are there going to be spring kits out at King of the Hammers?
Yes, but if you have something specific that you want, then give us a call, talk to JT and the guys on the phone, and they will put it down. We'll make sure that we bring it. We're going to bring kind of a generic 5 kits of every model kind of thing. But we'd like to know what you have, so we bring yours. We'll put your name on it.
Yep. Sway bars, links, all that
Sway
good
bars.
stuff. Yep.
Yep, sway bars, all the typicals. We'll have Polaris racks. We're out of X3 racks right now. We'll have a lot of these bump steer kits, which will, especially in the rocks, improve the strength out at the outer ball joint. So you might want to consider it, and you can do it in the pits. So we'll have a lot of stuff.
Yep.
Steve, anything else?
That's it, man.
Hubert, you got anything else?
I'm pumped y'all coming out to my side of the country.
We are. We're going to come out.
I'm gonna come visit.
Well, then we can.
Take y'all riding.
We were planning on staying at your house.
Yeah, we
That's
talked.
fine. I don't care. You might have to snuggle with my dog a little bit. But
No
they
problem.
don't mind.
Sounds like a warm
You
bed.
won't mind. I'm in.
Mitch, you got anything you want to do?
Nope. We are
All right.
good.
All right, you guys, thank you very much for tuning in for Tech Tuesday. Talking a little bit of tech when it comes to bump steer delete stuff on all the new ball joint style vehicles, which is everything but a Can-Am X3 and a Wildcat. And let us know if you need any of these. They're on the site. We'll have more models coming soon. Pretty much every week we're going to add some. And in a couple months we'll have full tie rod kits to go with these. And this will come standard on our tie rod kits. So look out when that gets dropped. Thanks again. Steve will take us out. Right, Steve?
Yes, sir. All right, guys. If you want to come say hi to us, come say hi out at King of the Hammers. If not, if you have any questions, give us a call, 623-217-4959. Or if you want to order anything off the website, www.shocktherapyusa.com.